And I don't think people know the story of how the roasting got going.
What do you mean? For me or for?
Yeah, for you.
Oh.
Because I remember you just being on roast to begin with.
Oh, man. I was doing fine as a stand-up. I did Letterman, and I was popping, doing love poems and sort of observational humor. You know, my act was not edgy. It was more cute, you know, relationship stuff.
Did it change after you went to Iraq or Afghanistan?
I changed.
I know.
I'm not sure my stand-up changed. But when I saw the roast, that was like a whole other thing. That was like walking into that first New York Hilton that I walked into to roast Steven Seagal. It was like walking into Yankee Stadium for me. Suddenly, I wasn't the only comedian. Normally, you go to a show, you know, on the road, you're by yourself. It's like there's Henny Youngman and Buddy Hackett and Milton Berle and Norm Crosby, and they're all there.
Do you have a crazy Milton Berle story?
Oh, yeah, lots of them.
The first time you went up, right? He was poking at you. Is that you? Oh, tell that story.
Oh, my God. So we're at the New York Hilton. We're roasting Steven Seagal. I didn't care about Steven Seagal. I didn't know a lot about him, but I researched it, and I couldn't YouTube anything back then, so I would have to go to the Museum of Broadcasting and look up what the old roasts were and what the line was and what the style was and how did they dress and how do you react when someone makes fun of you? You know what I mean? So I kind of got a feel for that. And now I'm there and I'm wearing my one good suit that I had left over from my Letterman appearance, which I had only bought for a wedding. And I'm up there with these Mount Roastmore of comedians. Right. Milton Berle's emceeing.
Buddy Hackett.
Buddy Hackett's right down there. And this is when I really start to miss my parents, when I have moments like this, because
they would have loved it.
Buddy Hackett was their favorite. Buddy and Don Rickles were their two favorites. You know, I remember as a little kid hiding at the top of the stairs while they watched Johnny Carson interview Rickles and Hackett, and I couldn't see these guys, but I could hear them. So I always knew what they sounded like and what their delivery was.
Was Rickles there too at this one?
No. And they finally get to me, and the show's so-so. It's kind of up and down, and Milton Berle gives me this terrible, terrible, terrible introduction, just dismissive. He's coming directly from Las Vegas. He was performing for a group of lesbians with dildo rash. Here's Jeff Ross. It gave me nothing, right? Like, not like here's a new guy, nothing, you know. So, you know, as soon as they take a dig at you, it gives you a right to take a dig back.
Sure.
And, you know, right out of the gate, I shake his hand and I just kind of look at him like, I'll get to you later. And I look at Steven Seagal and I say, a lot of you don't know me, but and there's 1,500 people at the New York Hilton, like New York influencers, you know, socialites. People from the mayor's office, the police commissioner's office, there's retired boxers, there's politicians, there's legendary comedians, Abe Vigoda. My head is just like an overload because I'm not used to this kind of thing.
Right.
And I say, a lot of you don't know me, but I feel uniquely qualified to be here today because I'm also a shitty actor. And now like Seagal turns, I got his attention, you know, and he's sweating to his headband and I see Milton and Buddy and these guys start, you know, bagging the table because here's a guy not afraid to you know, I'm not trying to be so respectful like everybody else, right. You know, and I'm just doing all these terrible, you know, movie jokes about Under Siege 2 was just released in the theater, just I'm getting Seagal, but my hitting percentage isn't what it is now.
Yeah.
I'm hitting you know, every other joke is a home run, but then I'll miss a few.
Yeah.
And every time I'd get a big laugh, not a miss, but a big laugh. This is what Milton Berle had these long, long fingers. He was a big guy. He would poke me from under the dais, because he was only as close as you are to me, closer. And he would give me a shot right in the ribs on the punchline. So now I'm I look like I got some kind of weird nervous tick.
Big shot.
And I didn't panic because this had happened to me once before in my life. This had happened to me on September 23rd, 1970 something at my bar mitzvah. My cantor kept poking me in the ribs.
Really?
While I was doing my Haftorah. And I think
kind of keep your attention up or something?
I think I never asked him. I didn't remember it until a long time
So
later.
Milton Berle was poking you.
And I think with the cantors, I think the cantor was trying to keep me from being nervous. Maybe my voice was cracking. Who knows? I'm 13, trying to read Hebrew, you know? And but Milton's thing was baffling. Baffling. Why is this fucking guy who is from not an older generation, he's 2 generations older, right? I'm 30, he's 80.
Oh, at that point he was 80?
It had to be about 80.
Oh.
And it wound up being the last roast he hosted. And he always hosted the roast. I knew him for another 10 years, but he stopped hosting. He wasn't working as much. But he's poking me in the ribs, and finally I'm like, I go, Milton, what do you do? I start going toe to toe with him. And he starts, it's like a little roast battle happening. Folks, I was walking around downtown today. I saw Milton Berle in an antique shop, $800. Just little quick ones, whatever I could think of. Look at this. I've seen younger faces on cash. Just back and forth. And finally, Milton's getting the better of me. And
does he have a mic?
He must have had a mic.
Yeah.
He must have had a mic, or he was leaning into mine.
Yeah.
At that point, he would have stood up.
Yeah.
I can't remember. You know what? That's a good question. Somewhere in my house, I have a picture of that framed on the wall, and I got to see if there's a mic there for him. Now I'm wondering, because what made it the next moment even more impressive, without a mic, 20 seats down the dais, Buddy Hackett, in that unmistakable out the side of his mouth voice, "Hey, Milton!" Now the whole room turns to Buddy Hackett, right? This is a big room.
Yeah.
"Hey, Milton!" And Milton stops whatever he's torturing me with and looks at Buddy, and they loved each other. "Hey, Milton, let the kid work. Remember when you used to?" So now Milton runs down to Buddy, right?
Yeah.
And just the two of them, almost like perfect, start kissing. They start like pretending to make out. And I go, "Oh, Milton Berle and Buddy Hack. Between the two of them, they have over 100 years of homosexual experience." Just a silly, I don't even know what it means joke.
Yeah.
And it's just me trying to spar with the heavyweights. And afterwards, I talked to Buddy Hackett back at the Friars Club. We're having a drink. He's sort of holding court with a lot of comedians and fans. I said, why would Milton Berle have done that to me, Buddy? Why do you think? And he goes, "Oh, he's just jealous whenever a new guy's getting laughs." I go, I don't know. Seems weird. Jealous? Could that be? And he goes, "Oh, go talk to him." So Milton's in another room where the smokers are, because Milton would smoke cigars and Buddy didn't like smoke. So I go and I finally wait my turn and I get to talk to Milton, and he didn't really answer me directly. But what he said was, "You did good, but just remember, kid, they only remember the home runs." Which made me think, Drew, like maybe he was saying, I didn't need to do so many jokes. He was sort of like prompting me along or something. And he's right. I've learned to edit it down, and you hone your material and you hit the home runs, the jokes that they quote.
And was that the moment you're like, I'm in, this is what I want to do?
I was like, how do I get these roasts on TV? That was my mission. I was like, I think I did one more.
Oh, are you the one that got them on TV?
Yeah.
Now, at first, though, you were just one of the roasters, right? Yeah. And then you stepped in.
I stepped in. Even then, I knew that I would be causing some friction between the old guard, because it was always a private event, no cameras, the closed doors of the Friars Club.
Oh, right.
Big stars don't want to be seen cursing. Milton Berle would use the most heinous language, and he was a big TV star, So yeah, I knew that I was really good at it, and I knew that it took another year or two to get him on TV, because I think I did one or two more just for fun. And then maybe
Friars Club.
And then I came to Beverly Hills to this Friars Club that's not here anymore. And I did some here where Milton and Buddy actually lived. So I got really into it. And I took a lot of shit. I was a young guy performing with the old guys, right in the middle of when I was doing alt comedy downtown in the Village too. So I really was playing. The ultimate alt comedy would be, to put a tuxedo on and riff with Milton Berle and Buddy Hackett. So it was like an awakening of sorts. And I realized that this tradition was something that people should see, not just fancy people who were members of this club. But so it took a little while, but I eventually convinced my pal Drew Carey, his managers, and the Friars Club, and Comedy Central to all get together. I didn't have the understanding back then how to package something and be the executive. I was just like, we got to get it on TV. Why don't you call this guy? You know, so I made it happen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until years later where I actually understood that, oh, wait, I'm producing this.
Wow. I remember. Do you remember the one you did for Hugh Hefner?
Of course.
Right after 9/11, and then Gilbert Gottfried's moment there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was... Talk about comedy... and pain. This is the ultimate. This is New York City, 9/11. We've been planning for months a roast of Hugh Hefner. Now, Hugh Hefner is at the top of his celebrity.
At that point, yeah.
He's got 5 or 6 blonde matching girlfriends.
It was the Girls Next Door time. It was that era.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's having this resurgence in his 70s.
Yeah.
And probably the very reason the terrorists hate us the most.
One of them, just one.
You know, and this happens. This terrible tragedy happens. Now I'm in my apartment in New York, and a day, you know, my manager's Bernie Brolstein. I call him. He's like, I don't know, kid. This is weird for even. I don't know. When old people are nervous, then I go, oh boy, there's no precedent for this.
Yeah.
What is comedy done? We're going to take a year off, 2 years. What's it going to be?
People are never going to laugh again.
Or not want to go out of the house.
Yeah.
Because even I'm walking around with my shirt over my nose. The whole town smells like burnt flesh and ash.
Where were you living then?
I lived at 300 Mercer Street in New York
Village?
City. Yeah. Just about a mile and a half from the Twin Tower, about a mile up. Just over where they would let you go down.
You're
So
right.
people are now, it was a tough, you know, people evacuated downtown. I had a house full of Dave Chappelle and his family and Adam Ferrara. They all evacuated downtown and stayed at my house for a night or two. And we start to realize, okay, now what do we do with the roast? It's in 2 weeks. Can we put on tuxedos and make these inappropriate, crazy jokes about this publisher / pornographer / whatever you want to call Hugh Hefner, you know, this American legend? And I wrote a letter to the Friars Club. I wrote a letter to Hugh Hefner. And I wrote a letter to Comedy Central. And I wrote a letter to all the roasters, which included Sarah Silverman and Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, I remember.
And Cedric the Entertainer, the great late Dick Gregory, Tommy Davidson, a few other people, and the whole thing was like a who's who. So I go, this is before the expression, if the terrorists win. If we don't go on with the show, the terrorists win.
You said that?
Yeah, in the
Wow.
letter. And it wasn't hacky then. I mean, it was like, we got to do this. The roast must go on. I said, let's just not do an after party. Let's put all that money towards the Twin Towers Fund and make the whole night a fundraiser. We wound up raising, I think, $550,000 for the Twin Towers Fund in 2001 money. And Jimmy started the show out great. Jimmy Kimmel was the roast master. He did great. Him and I hosted a behind-the-scenes show for Comedy Central. We got to interview everybody. We got a real big kick out of talking to Hef and everything. And Ice-T was one of the roasters. And then Rob Schneider went on, and Rob was doing fine, but he had a couple of jokes that missed. And I'm now a producer on the show, and I'm nervous. Oh boy, is this going to go south?
Would they miss just because they were not good jokes?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Just like he had a couple of whiffs.
I think he did something 9/11-ish, if I remember right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I ran up to, at this point, I'm wearing Buddy Hackett's scarf. I remember tie, because I can picture the picture. He gave me a bunch of silk ties and stuff. So I really felt empowered and cool. And like, I felt like, you know, a producer of a big time TV roast. So I walked up when it wasn't my turn yet, while Rob was at the podium, and I put my arm around him because we're friends. And I said, Rob, you know, speed things up. I mean, hasn't there been enough bombing in this city?
Oh my God.
So we got through that one. I went on. I had a couple good jokes. You know why Hef has 6 girlfriends? One to put it in and the other 5 to move him around. We were going to roast Larry Flint, but nobody wanted to build a ramp. Hef once told me that was his favorite. And then we finally at the end, Gilbert came out. That's when he did the famous too soon moment.
What did he? I forget that part of the
He
joke.
said something to the effect of,
he was late or something.
I'm sorry I was late getting here. My plane had a connection at the Empire State Building.
Right.
Or he said, I'm a little nervous about my flight home. My plane has a connection at the Empire State Building.
And they were like, oh, too soon. Too soon. He goes, really? Too
Yeah.
soon? So he launches into...
That's when he grabbed hold of the podium like it was a spaceship and just took himself to another stratosphere with the Aristocrats joke.
If you've seen the Aristocrats movie where everybody tells this joke,
I love Gilbert so much.
you're essentially telling the filthiest joke you can possibly tell, and he launches into it.
And it sort of set Gilbert up as this mythical figure at the roasts and inappropriate humor.
Yeah.